This is the Convene Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Convene Talk, where we discuss interesting stories that appear in our popular newsletter, News Junkie. My name is Magdalina Atanassova, Digital Media Editor of Convene. Jen, take it away.
Thanks, Maggie. This is Jen Dienst, Senior Editor. My topic for this week is a topic I feel like is hard to escape right now, which is AI. This is an article that ran in News Junkie last week from futurism.com about the CEO of Otter AI, who says that later this year, AI will be able to attend meetings for you. This article cites a Business Insider interview with the CEO, who, for those who aren't familiar, Otter AI is a software that you can use to transcribe meetings, audio, et cetera, in real time. And it uses AI to automatically, in real time, generate takeaways, slides, summaries, et cetera. So the CEO, Sam Leong, said that the company is currently developing a prototype to do exactly that, which is basically these work personas, according to the article, that would be trained on the recorded meeting notes and voice data of specific people they're trying to replicate so that they can act and converse exactly like them. So in theory, they're going to be able to speak and sound like these individual workers and participate in conversations and answer questions based on a worker's unique perspectives. So you don't have to go to 10 meetings anymore. The CEO spoke in the article about how he has to go to at least 10 meetings a day. And this would free up more time for him to be creative and focus on bigger picture things. So I think for a lot of us who have to attend a lot of meetings every day, in theory, that sounds great. However, I think, in my opinion, there's tons of concerns here, which is, one, how do we train AI to be emotionally intelligent, especially as we as humans still have a lot of progress to make there. The CEO addresses this topic in the article, and he admits that it will be difficult to train AI on, making or on the emotional cues that are needed for meeting etiquette. This is something that we've written about before. We know that it's super common in meetings to see an imbalance between genders when it comes to speaking up. A lot of studies show that men often interrupt and dominate meetings more than women. How can we train AI intelligently enough to compensate for that when we ourselves aren't doing that? So another thought I had is, is this the direction that we want to go with AI? Like, sure, it's great to use AI for time-consuming tasks. I myself use it for transcribing interviews. Data crunching is really popular. We know from interviewing meeting planners about how they use AI that's pretty common. But if we're progressively training AI to replace ourselves by talking and thinking like us to the point where we don't even need to be in the room, are we taking it too far? My gut instinct is yes. And I saw another article yesterday that kind of spoke to that. It was an interview with Tyler Perry. If you're not familiar, he's a huge TV and movie mogul. But he told Hollywood Reporter that he is putting plans for his $1 billion movie studio on hold after seeing the debut of Sora this month. He believes that guardrails need to be put in place to prevent a mass loss of industry jobs because of what this new AI technology will be able to do. So I'm curious to know what y'all think. Is this awesome? Are you excited about this idea that an AI avatar can replace you in a meeting? Or do you think it's going in a direction we don't need to go? Tell me what y'all think.
Hi, this is Barbara Palmer, Deputy Editor. I found the avatar designed to sound and look like me and attend meetings to be really chilling. What's not lost on me is the person who is proposing this is developing this to sell. And I think that there's this gold rush towards avatars. There's that whole deep fake world. And I think that is separate from what 10 meetings a day is way too much. And there are ways that I think a lot of the things that happen at meetings can be dealt with more efficiently. I just think having an avatar who shows up and looks and sounds like you is just dehumanizing, just literally dehumanizing. The other thing, though, and this is like a more general question that I have about AI, and it's related to this study I saw about the use of navigational systems and our spatial intelligence. That when we start using GPS all the time, and I've noticed this in a new city, that you stop looking for landmarks, you stop navigating the way that you used to. And this Nature article says you really do lose spatial abilities, which then is a problem when your GPS isn't working, when when you can't get directions. It's a problem when the GPS is imperfect. It doesn't know that here in California, there's tons of people who just, drove into treacherous conditions in the ice and snow because the GPS told them to do it. If you weren't using the GPS, you'd just be thinking more. So I worry, transferring this to meetings, what happens to our ability to work with one another? What happens to I worry about creativity. If we're going to AI all the time and asking for ideas, if we're not at the same time really exercising our own muscles, I think we're gonna lose what makes us human. I don't know if anybody saw the movie WALL-E, but it just made me think of WALL-E. People that don't walk lose the ability to walk. People that don't hash things out with people lose the ability to hash things out with people. So I'm sorry to go on for so long, but I do feel strongly about this. Please, somebody else jump in and stop me.
Everything you said, I totally agree with. I think also what you said about there's too many meetings. To me, this doesn't solve for that. This is just sort of like, too many meetings, so we're just going to have somebody fill in who's not really you, so you have more time. The problem is that's like a systemic problem at many organizations, and so that I think needs to be addressed. For me, I think it's terrifying to think that I would have an avatar on a call, and from my experience, a lot of these meetings, I'm being asked to do something or deliver something, or there's an expectation, and part of my role in being in these meetings is to set expectations and say, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. I'm not always great at that, but at least I know what is being asked. And so I can try to plan for that. I guess part of it is and this just goes back to too many meetings and it being a systemic problem. If an avatar can fill in for you at a meeting, then really what is your value at an organization? Why are you being paid to be at an organization if it's just like somebody who looks and talks like you and is taking notes? And then what's the difference between that and just getting a transcription of the meeting itself so that you can see what was discussed, and then you can circle back is another corporate term, but go back to people who are in the call. And it just seems not the best use of AI. And I totally agree with you, Jen. There are lots of good uses. Just doing a couple of different studies that we've been working on, it is so great for AI to be able to group responses in categories. What used to take me hours and hours to just do a manual tab of people who respond in open-ended comments to their biggest challenge being this, and then putting it in another bucket, that's like in a matter of seconds. And that is so helpful. I don't wish my replication of myself on anybody. So my vote is no. I'm not going to clone myself. Casey, what do you think?
Well, Barbara, just going back to your WALL-E comment for a minute, I was at the Apple store this weekend and I saw people trying out the Apple Vision Pro goggles. And that was my first thought, oh gosh, we're so close to being like the people in WALL-E. So that's a little bit scary. But I totally agree with everything that you guys have been saying. I use AI not for my job, as in not for researching and not for writing, because I don't trust it. I've asked ChatGPT very silly pop culture related questions, and it's wrong almost every time. So I'm certainly not going to have it do research for my job. But I treat it more like an assistant. So, I'll have it help me data crunch or menial tasks, like you were saying, Michelle, grouping answers that would have taken a really long time before. Things that are kind of easy and mindless, but I can just do it a little bit faster if I use AI. In that perspective, would I send an assistant to go participate in a meeting on my behalf? Probably not, because they might sign me up for something I don't want to do or can't do. They might not take notes the way I would, and they won't represent me as I want to be because they're not me. So my answer to whether I'd be comfortable with that is also no.
I agree. I was about to say to an extent, but I think I fully agree with all of you and having concerns. And my first instinct was, of course, privacy, because you have to feed it all of you essentially to teach it to become you. And this is a very scary thought. And then they explain in the article that the meetings that they are seeing those AI replicas attend are related to customer support, sales, team status updates, and my favorite, when you're on vacation. So going back to you, Michelle, on the systemic problem. I mean, thank you very much if you're expecting me to attend a meeting while I'm on vacation. It's not happening. We're living in a culture that's already too much into the grind and doing more. And we recently spoke about that with the VML 100 report, where now people are looking to go away from that. They don't want to be faking a meeting while on vacation, in quotation marks. When I read the article, there was a link to another related article, which was a Polish company that hired an AI CEO. And she's scary. She's called Mika and is created by the same company that created Sophia, the very famous kind of humanoid AI robot. So she's very similar. And in one of the video interviews she did, she says, well, I'm 24/7 on and ready to take analytical decisions and make the company better. It is scary, and I don't know what to think about, to be honest with you. Jen, I see you have some thoughts about that, so go for it.
I just wanted to say that, I think when we start moving in the direction of AI replacing us, like I keep going back to this Sora example, which if, for people who are listening who don't know what that is, it's something that was introduced, I think, a week or two ago, and it's text to video. So basically you can just type in a description and it conjures like a very sophisticated video. And it's literally, I think what Tyler Perry said, and I'll read a quote from the article, was kind of mind-numbing and scary, that we can essentially erase an entire movie industry just because of the capabilities of this new technology. And I think when we start moving in the direction, we are erasing creativity and erasing emotional intelligence, and we're for profit. Like clearly this is going to, make movie making and, anything that involves animated video or, videos like that, and making it so much cheaper. I mean, we're essentially putting, entire industries out of jobs. My brother works for a Big Four accounting firm, and I won't say who it is, just in case anyone's listening, but from there. But he's very, very worried about losing his job because, what his role is and what AI can do. And I think, like we're not that far off from that. And I think when we start to think about those implications, we're leaving entire industries. And, people like my brother has a law degree. He's a CPA. Like he's very well educated and has 20 plus years of experience. That's really scary. Real quick, I just wanted to say, just read this quote from Tyler Perry, because I thought it is just really important. He said, it makes me worry so much about all the people in the business, because as I was looking at it, Sora, I immediately started thinking of everyone in the industry who could be affected by this, including actors and grip and electric and transportation and sound and editors. And looking at this, I'm thinking this will touch every corner of our industry. I think it's going to be a major game changer, because if you could spend a fraction of the cost to a pilot that would have cost $15 million or even $35 million, if you're looking at HBO, of course, the bottom line of those companies would be to go the route of the lesser costs. So I'm very, very concerned that in the near future, a lot of jobs are going to be lost. I really, really feel that very strongly.
It really is scary. I think we're sensitive to it as journalists and being aware of how AI can aid in spreading misinformation, but also as writers and creatives. We know that these are things that require a human touch and nuance. And to Jen's point earlier, I don't see how AI can really replicate emotional intelligence or humanity in the way we are able to. And I think for Hollywood, especially, it's a real threat very soon, because we know SAG fought to make sure that there were some protections around AI when it came to production companies being able to take their likeness and use it as AI avatars in the future. So it's scary that it's on their minds for such a creative field to start using AI in such a big way. And I think that's a threat to anyone who's in any sort of creative field, and it's scary.
I feel like Barbara is not here, nor her AI personality. Barbara, are you here?
I am here. I had my
You're
robot
frozen.
there for us. That's
Yeah,
my
you're frozen.
yes. Because I have so many thoughts, but I will stick with the mistakes of social media. Like, I feel like there's no question that social media has had a poisonous effect on young people and on just, it's just had a really negative effect. And I think a lot of that can be traced to the fact that people became anonymous. They became you didn't know who they were. It wasn't transparent. And they also were able to just create false images of who they were and what they were. And people, I think, are really just getting a little unbalanced by that. So I feel like I'm not as threatened actually by Mika, because I feel like, Mika, the AI CEO, is an AI CEO, and you can compare your ideas to Mika's. But where you start mixing humans and AI, and where the goal is that they will represent you and be indistinguishable from you, I think puts us all in a position of just being lost, just not being able to tell what's reality and what's not. And I don't think that is a good place for us to address the problems that we have or our relationships with each other.
I feel like I could see the CEO thinking in the back of his head, he probably gets asked to speak at conferences all the time, right? I could definitely see him thinking secretly oh, I could send my avatar and make they get paid handsomely and I don't have to actually go. I could see him that thought churning in the back of his head. I think for some people like that who really see, the value of this, they can imagine that, which I think is wild. I mean, we saw with the World Economic Forum, they had the metaverse, which we wrote about, and they had avatars. Of course, it was them behind the avatars, actual humans, but the infrastructure that kind of demonstrates that the infrastructure is there. So I feel like in 20 years, that could be it seems ridiculous to us now, and I agree. I think it's stupid, but I could see how some people would be really excited about that.
My comment to the Otter CEO is that his transcription service doesn't know the difference between there, and there, or two, and two sometimes. So maybe work on that before trying to create whole AI people out of real people. I think he's got a way to go on that.
And Jen, to your point about the avatar, that was actually a suggestion during a main stage presentation at Convening Leaders. The gentleman from Google said, in the not too distant future, this could be my avatar speaking to you. And I would say he lost me there. He was a great speaker, but I thought, no, I don't want to travel to a conference to see your avatar speak.
Mm-hmm. But I think for people who don't like doing that, who don't like traveling and going to conferences, which of course we all do because we're in that sphere, but there's some people who would rather not and would probably love the idea of sending an avatar to go in their stead.
The only way that would make sense to me is if everyone sent their avatar. It couldn't be a mix of humans and their AI avatars. It would have to be a level playing field. Otherwise, the discrepancy would be too wide. I mean, maybe if you all sent your avatars and they came back with notes about what happened or something, but I don't really see the value in that. So I don't know. I don't get it.
Any other thoughts? I mean, we have a lot of thoughts on that topic.
Yeah,
for sure. But good idea, author CEO. Let's see what you're going to do, because he promises this by the end of the year.
Yes, which is
Curious to see.
interesting.
Me too. Curious. I'm curious to see what that looks like.
And let's hope he tests it on himself first, as this is his technology. We want proof. And that it makes difference between there, and there, and two, and all those little aspects. And for me, the other challenge, foreign pronunciation, right? I mean, people like me, when I see my transcription, it's difficult. I have to correct a lot.
Right.
Because AI is not used to hearing people speak like me. Mm-hmm. It's trained on native speakers.
Also, just because I've been listening to Malcolm Gladwell, who talks about how a lot of how we determine intelligence in our world is how quickly you can do things, right? So AI can do things really quickly. Like his whole point about LSAT is like you have to finish 25 questions in like 35 minutes. But there are some brilliant minds, he said, they're more like a tortoise than the hare. And it's like the people who take the time, who have a completely different approach, they sometimes have the genius ideas, and they are the brilliant people. It's not necessary, but that's our society. It's like we're about quickness and efficiency, but sometimes it's the tortoise that really wins. Like that's the fable, right? The tortoise won the race.
Yeah. And I can't remember. I will goof up his name if I say it, but it was a Nobel laureate that I was talking to, and he said, I'll never forget this. He said, beware the fast thinkers, Barbara. I was like, well, I'm good. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Particularly in our field, I mean, you can crank out a story in an hour, but that doesn't mean it'll be good. It's often better when you are able to think about it more and come back to it and take your time. So,
yeah, maybe slow thinking movement will start in addition to slow food. And that was one of the VML trends, de-accelerating hype cycles, that we just, we're not made to keep up with this.
Absolutely. I love that idea.
Also speaking slowly on a podcast, note to self. Sometimes when I'm editing and I hear what I actually have said and how it was in my head before I said it. Two completely different stories. So
true. Yeah, just normalize, not equating that immediately with better, and that faster's better.
Yeah. Let's leave our audience with this and ask them to like, subscribe, and read the show notes to get the links. And well, until next time.